In the summer of 1954, its most famous resident was the British actress Melissa James.
From what I can tell, Melissa James had no enemies. But sometime between 6:28, 6:38 in the evening, somebody broke into her house and strangled her.
More of the same, but better. I'd like to think. I mean, it's a very twisty, perhaps even more complicated and complex story with more surprises and a completely different vibe in a way. I think it's lighter on its feet, mainly thanks to Pippa and her relationship with Tim and with Danny, who plays Inspector Chubb. There's a wonderful sort of light-hearted, fun core to this show, even though the plot itself does go to some quite dark places too.
Just a bit of a dream. Yeah. I mean, Madeline is just the gift. She's just like a gift of a part. I had so much fun, and like Anthony said, Danny, Tim and I just had a complete laugh for a month. I mean, it was so fun. It was difficult trying to get through takes with those two, actually. So I play a character called Madeline Kane, who I think is the kind of perfect secretary. I think if anyone wanted a secretary, you would want Madeline. She's quite solitary and possibly lives quite a, sad, lonely life when she's not at work. But she really thrives on being there for Pund and being really good at her job. And she's a bit kooky, which was a lot of fun to play.
I think the adaptation stays fairly close to the book. It's always a question of having to sort of tiptoe around it. But what I think is different this year, first of all, is that central character, which we've already mentioned. But another character plays a big part in this is Crete. The first episode opens on the island of Crete. We managed to film there, and it's very beautiful. And every time we flash back to Crete, it somehow adds a sort of Mediterranean warmth to the whole show as well. So that's a very different aspect of it. And I think that the way that the two stories connect with each other is perhaps even more devious than it was the first time round. I would just say we have the if you're going to talk about strong women in this show, we have two of the strongest women in the business, very different from each other, doing an absolutely wonderful job. One of them in the modern day and one of them back in the 50s. And one of them in the room and one of them just down the road.
And Peter Robertson, who was our DP. I mean, some of the times we would look at not all the time, we'd look at the monitor after some of the takes, and it just looked like a painting. I mean, it's lit so beautifully, and Annie Harding, who did the costumes, and Catherine Argy, who did hair, and Jennifer Hegarty, who did makeup, everything just aligned. And I think the 50s section, from memory, what I saw little bits was just beautiful, and it was really fun as well to wear all those lovely costumes, and I nicknamed my wig Whitney.
But it's not. It's not just about costumes and about wigs and makeup, although that is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
It's the performances as well. It's knowing how to be the 50s woman, not to be modern, but how you hold yourself, or even how you hold a cup of tea.
Yes.
And when people talk about having fun and joy, never forgetting that underneath all that, there is a real person there, but these are real relationships, and that we're telling a sort of a serious story. Having fun is one thing on the set, provided the audience is going to have fun watching it too, and that's what I think that we have really brought off here, the sense of joy, but also of reality.
Yeah. I mean, I did a little research on deportment as well, the 50s deportment.
It shows.
Yeah, and secretarial work, because that was such a big part of, the women, if they wanted to work, that's what they did. And, as soon as you go down that rabbit hole of deportment, you do go, oh man, I'm quite slouchy as a modern day woman, but she was quite prim and proper, and it really helped me find her.
We should never forget that Madeline has spent 20 years working for Associated Biscuits, and it really does come out of the character. It really is there. From Associated Biscuits to murder and blood and violence. It's sort of, the poor woman has to live every minute of it. It's sort of...
Associated Biscuits, I mean, it's genius.
It couldn't have been anything else, really.
No. They made me pencils with Associated Biscuits, the prop department, yeah. Well, I think it's, in comedy that to sort of make something funny, you play the absolute truth of it. And I think with her. I tried not to think about the play within the plays type thing, because what was happening to her was absolutely happening to her, and she was, handling it in the way that she wanted to, that kind of thing. So I think, but then because it is sort of slightly judgmental, I could have a bit of fun with her and sort of make her a bit fun.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, she is real to the audience and to them, but it's interesting.
It's interesting. It does give it another.
I think the fun is there, but it's not. This show is Magpie Murders and Moonflower Murders. They have a very peculiar tone, because they have a sort. On the one hand, they're fantastical. We have a 1950s detective having a relationship with a 21st century editor, and we have these sort of crossovers at every. There's nothing on television, but it's quite like it.
No.
And everybody is enjoying it. And obviously a lot of the actors get the buzz of having two parts instead of one, but also you get characters like Madeleine that are so rich and so much to play with. But as I say, underneath it all, we're not making a comedy show. It is just a show that happens to have a lot of fun and as you said, joy in it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but you are invested in these murdered people. It's sad. It's the show starts with these parents coming and saying we're trying to figure out.
But that's a very good point. The show does have a very dark heart to it, which is a young woman has gone missing, and she knows too much, and it seems that she may have been murdered herself. But she is a very real character, and she has parents, and she has a mourning husband and a child. So there's a lot to unpick there, and it's a tribute to to Pippa and to Tim and to Danny that they can inhabit their world without damaging that one.
Yes.